In 2018, Juan Soto officially introduced himself to the baseball world and was incredible. It was the final year of Bryce Harper as a National before becoming a free agent, and it was pretty clear that that was going to be it. I mean, if it wasn't clear enough years before that, Harper was not getting his big star contract with the Nats, so with Soto doing his thing, even on an unforgettable Nationals team, it was a bright sign for the future. So when Harper did leave, signing with the in-division rival Phillies, where Harper has since become a born-again Philadelphian, wanting nothing to do with the Nationals organization, the 20-year-old Juan Soto remained. He was the guy, and as good as he was in 2018, 2019 was the real coming out party of Juan Soto. Say what you want, but when you're hitting game-changing, bases-clearing doubles against maybe baseball's best closer lefty on lefty in a winner-take-all wildcard game, not being intimidated by anybody, no matter how pissed they got at you for doing a little shuffle while hitting, going to only make those pitchers even more pissed by hitting home runs off of them, multiple future Hall of Fame pitchers in the World Series leading your team, the Washington Nationals, to a championship win. I mean, yeah, this kid is special, and he still is, and he's still young. He's only 25 years old, and assuming you read the title of this video, no, I'm not referring to Juan Soto. Everyone is talking about Juan Soto, of course, but the issue with him being the guy after Bryce Harper is the fact that he hasn't been a National for almost 2 years now, and he's actually been on multiple teams across the country from each other. He was the guy in DC until he wasn't, and he recently got traded to the Yankees, where he seems to be thriving now, and the contract he signs this year will be fascinating to look at. But to go back to the first time Soto was traded, the blockbuster Herschel Walker type deal between the Nationals and Padres, everyone was talking about Soto, and like I said, everyone still is talking about Soto. But there's a pretty vital player and notable player, a young player, who was sent to the Nationals from San Diego in that big trade, the man who is considered their top prospect, and that's CJ Abrams, the shortstop. Now, in that moment, nobody cared about CJ Abrams or the Nationals, and for valid reason. We're talking about Juan Soto going to an already star-studded Padres team. That's the hot topic. Skip ahead less than 2 years later, Soto didn't really work out in San Diego. Not that he was bad. I mean, he struggled after the trade in 2022, started off 2023 awful, but then played like an MVP for the next 5 months of the year, playing every single game too, which is also very important. He's great and stays on the field, but the Padres were not good. They didn't win in his first full year there. I still believe they should have done everything they could to keep Soto, even if it meant losing others, considering he was their best player. But whatever, it's over now. Soto's gone, but CJ Abrams is still on the Nationals. And just like a couple years ago, there doesn't seem to be much hype. If anything, it's died down a lot since he's been there, and I'm not even blaming people for that. It's actually valid that that happened. Despite the fact that you should consider subscribing if you enjoy this video, and despite the fact that being the Padres' top prospect and one of the best prospects in all of baseball, Abrams didn't really show much to be excited about in his first official year in the big leagues, which was 2022. When Abrams became a National, he had already played 46 games with the Padres, and he wasn't very good at all, really. His stats were almost in a lot of parts identical from the 46 games he played in San Diego to the next 44 he played with the Nationals. He only had 2 home runs before the trade and proceeded to hit 0 after the trade to end the season. I mean, it was for the most part the same guy, and his 90-game rookie season was really nothing impressive. Anything to worry about? No, not really. His first 90 games, he's getting his feet wet, he struggled, who cares? So on comes 2023, Abrams played almost every game for the Nats, he made some improvements, showed a little more pop, showed his speed, and stole almost 50 bases, 47, the most in Nationals history. But he was still a below average hitter, didn't really provide much pop, but then again, he's only 22. Not everyone is Juan Soto, becoming arguably the best hitter at like 16. That's not normal. What Abrams is going through is normal, to have those growing pains and struggles early on adjusting to the show. Especially when you factor in that Abrams never actually had a smooth ride to the majors. In fact, it was anything but smooth. After being drafted 6th overall, he was great in 2019, putting up great numbers, but only played 34 games because of a shoulder injury. Then 2020 happened, the minor league season was canceled, and Abrams didn't play a single game. 2021 comes along, and he played well, getting selected to play in the All-Star Futures game, the All-Star Prospects game, basically, except he wasn't able to play in that, or any games after June 30th, because of a fractured left tibia and a sprained medial collateral ligament he suffered on a collision with the second baseman during a play up the middle so bad he had to be helped off the field. So that was it for his season. After that, big leagues. He was put on the Padres opening day roster the next year. He did split time between the big leagues and AAA while on the Padres, and even after the trade in 2022, playing a few games for the Nationals AAA team. And he put up good numbers that year in 38 AAA games, struggled in the big leagues, and has pretty much his whole time there so far. Well, Not recently, but I think you got the point. He's had a very unfortunate consecutive series of events, the injuries, the pandemic making 2020 a lost year, all stuff that I wouldn't say have completely halted his development, but it's definitely altered it and delayed some of the progress. So 2023 was needed though. As mediocre as it was overall, as disappointing, I guess, he needed that full experience of being in the big leagues. And like I said, he showed improvement. But considering he wasn't that good and the Nationals were a last place team, rightfully, nobody cared, but it's one of those small things that lead to something people will care about, because there were several mental and mechanical adjustments Abrams factored into his game. As for mechanics, Abrams made some adjustments at the plate with his hands and bat position, with his manager Davey Martinez helping him with the mental side, moving Abrams up in the order despite the struggles, which is a simple, clear move and sign of confidence and faith, while also giving him a mindset to follow as far as results, telling Abrams not to focus so much on each at-bat in a good or bad way, but rather break it all up into blocks of 10 at-bats, to think over the span of 10 at-bats, can he hit the ball hard 4 or 5 times? Can 2 or 3 of those end up as hits? Can he mix in a walk? With Martinez making the point that if Abrams does that, hits the ball hard about half the time, gets a couple or 3 hits, works in a walk, he's a premier player. Look at the long-term, bigger sample size of gain and progress, rather than just looking at each individual time up at the plate as a success or failure. Now, obviously, there are many different ways to look at hitting or anything in baseball in a mental way. There's endless ways of doing it that helps others and doesn't help others, and this is definitely an interesting way of looking at it, and it ended up working for Abrams, someone who finished the 2023 season strong. And to kick off 2024, we're already seeing as big a jump as ever for Abrams. Yes, it's early, but that's also partially why what he's been doing is impressive. This is important because last year, it took Abrams 45 games to hit his first 5 home runs of the season. It took Abrams just 15 games to hit 5 home runs this year. The power is already trending way up, pretty dramatically, and everything else is also up. His batting average, his on-base percentage, his overall OPS is way high, which when it comes to that stuff, yes, you have to acknowledge it's early, but 5 home runs already when he hit just 2 in 90 games in 2022, and it took 45 games to hit 5 last year. That's big. And that shows us a little more of a taste of what Abrams was expected to be when drafted and a top prospect in the Padres organization. As far as Abrams' defense, he struggled a bit on that early on last year and did get better, more natural as time went on, but overall, defense doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of how valuable a player is. I mean, honestly, as long as Abrams plays average defense, which I think he won't, I think he could be a good, really good, maybe even a great defensive shortstop, but you don't pay players or hand them the honor of a star player because of defense. It's because of the bat, and because Abrams' bat wasn't really doing much since he's entered the league, he wasn't looked at as a star even though he had high expectations. And he still isn't, which is okay, which is where I'm coming in to let you know that it is okay and you don't need to be blamed for that. It's not like CJ Abrams is some underrated player that people should be talking about. It's more so the fact that he hasn't lived up to any of the expectations so far, but with the slight improvements he made in 2023 and the vast improvements and big thump he's already provided to kick off 2024, I have a strong feeling that this will be MLB's next big star and a big impactful piece for the Washington Nationals as they try to build their first winning team since the Juan Soto trade and really since the championship in 2019. It's been that long. The new era of Nationals baseball. Do I think CJ Abrams will be Juan Soto caliber? No. That's also a very unfair bar to compare him or any newer, younger player to. But Abrams very well might not just be the Washington Nationals' next big star, face of the franchise to help lead them back to the playoffs, but MLB's next breakout star, just in general. And it's time to start talking about him.